Today we're going to be talking about core childhood wounds because our childhood, believe you me, really impacts our adulthood lives. And the reason why it's so important to understand these childhood wounds and how they're formed is that it sort of sets the foundation for understanding the patterns we keep recreating in our lives unconsciously as adults. A lot of times, the things that keep happening, the patterns that keep repeating, the things that we feel like this just keeps happening to me. It's different faces, but same experiences. All of such instances are actually a lot of times either they are a projection and a manifestation of our childhood wounds that have not healed, or some sort of past trauma that causes us to behave in ways and attract certain things and results in our lives. We'll start with a little understanding of brainwave patterns, and this is very baseline information just to help you understand what happens when a baby is born and how do these childhood wounds even develop. Because if you were to go through something similar today as an adult, your reaction, your response, and the meaning you give to it will be completely different as opposed to when you were a child. And to understand why and how that happens, we're just going to go through a little bit of understanding of brainwave patterns and the way that they impact our logical thinking mind, our subconscious mind, So, when you're at the age of 0 to 2 years old, our brainwave patterns are in delta. Delta is like the slowest wave pattern. It's what our brain goes into when we're sleeping, right? 0 to 2 years old, brainwave patterns are delta. These are the lowest brainwaves. There are no filters. So any information that the child sees when they are from the age of 0 to 2, anything that they experience, there's no logic behind it. They just take it in. Everything goes in the subconscious mind. They accept all information. That's why, by the way, when you see like a newborn is always sleeping because the brain waves are so slow. And so 2 to 5 years old, the brain waves start getting a little bit more, I wouldn't say faster. I just say that they start picking up the pace a little bit, right? This is when they're in theta brainwaves. So this is where you start to form a lot of your beliefs. And that is because anything that you experience during that age, you accept it to be the truth. You accept it to be your experience of reality. You accept that if your mom tells you that boys don't cry, that is the truth. Khalas, final, no questioning it. When you're growing up, and consider this now, between the ages of 2 to 5, there's so many things that happen in our lives, so many beliefs that we absorbed at that age from the adults around us, particularly our parents. For example, if somebody comes from a household where their parents talked about how money is bad, money is evil, or how there's never enough money is so hard to make, that child is gonna grow up as an adult who will always believe that money is so hard to make, that maybe the belief was that you can't be happy while you work, right? They see their dad every day, come back home, he's exhausted, he's pissed off, he's stressed out, he's frustrated. And the kid believes that, well, for me to be a hard worker, I need to get a job that makes me feel exhausted, stressed out, and you're just feeling pissed off. And that means I earned that money. And that's why so many people don't have this concept of doing what you love. Because that is what the belief they absorbed during their childhood, that you have to really suck it up. I remember I was working with somebody who used to often say this. He would often say that, oh, I saw my dad work like this. I saw all the mentors in my life say this, that you have to really bust your ASS to get money. You have to really be ruthless. You have to really get all anxious and stressed and worked up, and your personal life doesn't matter. Your health doesn't matter. And these are all beliefs. The crazy thing is that these beliefs, because they're accepted unquestionably in the subconscious mind, it's like that becomes almost like this filter they see reality through. I was at this event where this guy whose work I really love, his name is Aaron Doughty, and he gave this analogy of belief glasses. He said that these are belief glasses. When you're at this age, right, and you form these beliefs, now this is your belief. This, what I'm experiencing right now, that's reality. And reality is neutral. But when I wear these shades, everything is a shade different color, right? Everything has a different shade to it because I am now seeing the formerly neutral reality through my belief glasses. When I see this, I notice that money is just energy, and it's great. Everyone should do something that they're passionate about. Purpose work should be something that inspires us. I really love this definition of success by getting a little sidetracked here, but I really want to share it with you. There's this definition of success by Earl Nightingale that I remember reading 3 years ago, and it stuck with me. Earl defines success as the progressive realization of a worthy ideal. And here's what he said. He said, progressive realization means that every single day you realize more and more that you love what you're doing, right? And you realize that, wow, this is a cause that is worthy of me. And a worthy ideal, he explained, is something, it's an idea that you have fallen in love with. He says that a lot of times people ask themselves this question that, oh, am I good enough for this job? And am I good enough for this career? Am I good enough for this? And he said, we as human beings, we are the highest form of creation on the face of the earth. The question we should be asking is that, is this thing that I'm doing worthy of me? Is it worthy of my time, my love, my energy? And so that is success, that progressively you are realizing more and more that, oh my God, what I'm doing is my worthy ideal. And my point is that when I'm seeing reality as neutral, all of these things are neutral, but when I'm seeing it through my belief glasses, and if I'm somebody who grew up believing that you have to really bust your butt to you earn money, that money is hard to make, that jobs aren't supposed to make you happy, your work isn't the place where you find joy, it's just something you do to get by, then that is what I will see all of my life through. Then I will never consider the possibility of finding joy in what I do, because I am believing. Because when I was this age, that is the belief that my subconscious mind accepted. Because your subconscious mind, your logical mind has not developed at that point. So you don't question anything. Someone comes and tells you that if this is blue, and someone comes and tells you that this is called purple, and they tell you every single day that, hey, purple, hey, purple, hey, purple, you best believe that you're going to believe this is purple. Because that is it turns into a subconscious belief. The reason why we believe that color purple is called purple or the color blue is called blue is because when we were 2 to 5 years old, we were taught that, hey, this is blue, the sky is blue, the sun is yellow. You know, what is purple? That's a great question. Lavender is purple. What's a common thing that's purple? Well, I'm going to cut the pause, but you're not going to know that I spent a good 30 seconds thinking about a common thing that's purple. And the only thing I can think of at the moment is, hey, my iPhone's purple. So comment below what's a common thing that's purple. Anyways, back to business. 2 to 5 years old, brain waves are in theta state. This is where everything goes straight in the subconscious mind. Oh my God, my nails are lavender. Straight in the subconscious mind. If someone was told, hey, your sister is smarter than you, or boys don't cry, or you're not good enough, or you're stupid, you're an idiot, why do you keep failing? Why do you keep falling down? You can't do anything right. What beliefs is that kid gonna grow up with? How many of us have seen parents, let's not even talk about our own parents, we've seen parents treat their under 5-year-olds like that, wherein we've seen them, be like, why can't you do anything right? You dropped the glass. You can't even do this right. Don't scream so much. Don't be so loud. Don't jump on the couch. Don't do this. No. Everything we do that is phrased in a way that we shame them also creates this belief within them that my authenticity is not worthy of being accepted. The reason I flinch is because I almost dropped my glasses and I love them very much. So I'm just gonna keep them here for now. Anyways, straight into subconscious mind. Now, 5 to 8 years old, the brainwaves start increasing, right? And the flow starts increasing, and now you're in alpha brainwaves. And this is where the analytical mind, your conscious mind, in other words, begins to develop, right? So it's not fully developed yet. It's just sort of beginning to develop, right? And this is where the child will have one foot in the world of imagination and one foot in the real world, right? Because in 2 to 5, the beliefs are internalized and the child lives in imagination. If you tell a freaking 3-year-old, can you pretend to be a dolphin? You best believe that kid will be the best dolphin you have ever met. Like you may have seen dolphins, but that kid's gonna be a dolphin better than a real dolphin. But you tell an adult, hey, can you be a dolphin? The adult's gonna be like, are you on drugs? You know what I mean? Little kids are not afraid to imagine. They're not afraid to dream. I remember when I was around that age, when someone would ask me, what do you think is going to happen 30 years from now? I'd say flying cars. And I'd draw like this little car with wings on it because everything was possible. Everything is possible when you're a kid because your imagination is incredibly vast. Your analytical mind does not exist. Imagine if that chatter that you have in your mind, right? Imagine it stopped completely. And you had all the ability to imagine and visualize or whatever, anything that you wanted. What would you dream of? 5 to 8 years old now, the brainwave patterns are in alpha, and now they're internalizing, accepting information and also questioning it. So some information they will internalize, some information they will question. If you've ever met a kid that's between 5 to 8 year olds, they are best believe the most annoying ones out there. And I say that with so much love because they will ask you so many questions. Why did the monkey do that? Why did this happen? Where do babies come from? How do they grow on trees? They will have a question for everything, right? And it's lovely to see. Like they're like Curious George, the monkey. 5 to 8 years old, analytical mind begins to develop. It's like this new software installation in them, and they're like, I could question things. Why are trees green? Why aren't they yellow or purple? If you go to Japan, maybe you'll find purple trees. I don't know, but that's my point. And now 8 to 12 are beta brainwave patterns, and beta has different levels, right? So there's like low beta, mid beta, high range beta, and high beta is what most adults who function in stress, who are constantly living in stress, and they're always like almost living in this fight, flight, freeze response. That's your highest, most radical brainwave patterns. Erratic, not radical, erratic brainwave patterns. Over here, 8 to 12 is when beta begins to form. And then 12 is usually at like the age where the door between the conscious and the subconscious mind closes. Now, after 12, the child will not accept everything that comes in. The child now has developed the ability to question, to be curious, to decide, to accept or reject, to form their own identity, and so on and so forth, right? This is sort of like a rundown of the years of a child's growth. Now I want you to think about all of what I just shared with you through the lens of beliefs. Now, if a kid in these ages grew up in a family where it was dysfunctional, where everyone was always yelling or there was physical abuse, if you're a Pakistani person or usually in Asian culture, it's that we don't even call it physical abuse, right? We don't call it that. We just say that, oh, that's just our parents' way of treating us or whatever, strict parenting or whatever. But let's for a moment call it what it is. It is physical abuse. Your parent is constantly hitting you, and you're here, a little baby, just learning how to be a human for. And there are two reasons why I'm sharing this. One is for us to become aware of our own development. And mind you, it's not to say that any of this is to blame our parents for anything. I always say that they were also doing their best at that time, and the purpose is for us to understand the impact of certain things in our lives and then get in the energy and frequency of forgiveness and healing, because we cannot heal without forgiving. And the truth is that, and I remember that I said this in one of the other videos as well, is that one of my teachers, he said this, that there's nothing to forgive. That's just what you have to remember. There is nothing to forgive. That they were knocked unconscious when they were doing that, and that when we hold them to this perfectionist standard, then we deny them their humanness. And that's not fair for them, because in our humanness, we are a lot as well. But because we hold our parents to such a high stature, we expect perfection out of them. But just like it was your first time being a human, it was their first time being a parent. And I just to give a little perspective, I want to share with you. I remember when I was, I want to say 16, I watched this movie. It was called The Shack. And it was a pretty long movie. But there's one scene in the movie that really stuck out to me, was that there was this little boy whose father was very physically abusive, right? And he would beat him up, and he'd beat his wife up, and the kid hated his father, and he said, you never want to be like him, and I can't wait to grow up, can't wait to move out, I don't care about him, blah, 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 so on and so forth. Long story short, the kid's father passes away at some point. Kid's living his own life. He has his own kid, his own family. And then this one scene they show in which the guy, now an adult, he has kids of his own, and he's the most loving father, by the way. And he is taken down, he gets lost somewhere, and he's taken down this little cave, and by people who were sort of shown as angels. And he goes into that cave, and he's shown like this movie screen. And on that movie screen, he's shown this little kid being beaten up in the woods by his father, brutally beaten up. And one of the people in that room asked this guy that, what do you think about this kid? What would you feel, or what would you say, or something? And he goes, it's not fair, and he doesn't deserve this, da, da, da. And he says, that was your father as a kid. And that hit me. That a lot of times it's not that our parents are the way or were the way they were because they want to be that way, but because of their own belief glasses, because of their own past experiences. And maybe they did not have the privilege to learn about healing, to learn about change, to learn about how to break that generational trauma, but they did do the best they could. And I know that for a fact. And as we learn more, and as we become more equipped, it allows us to heal and hold compassion for them, and hold compassion for their humanness and their own experiences. Because just like you're an individual who's had your childhood crap, they're an individual who had their childhood crap too. And the other day I was with my mom, and she was telling me one of her childhood stories, and she told me the story, and it broke my heart, because hearing that story allowed me to see. It allowed me to see that, wow, this is what makes you who you are. And whatever you did, it was out of your humanness. It was because that's all you knew at that point. My mom and I were best friends today. But before we could have that relationship, I had to heal first. I had to let go of my anger, my emotions, my everything. I had to surrender and say, you know what? It was her humanness and it was my humanness. The second reason why I'm sharing this is because if you're watching this and maybe you're a parent, or maybe someday you will be a parent, or for you to understand the impact of our words on our kids, not my kids, I don't have kids, I'm not married, but on kids, whatever we say sticks with them. and they download it. It imprints their brain. We have to be so mindful of the way we treat them, because that is how we are essentially, in a moment, I'm going to tell you how the way we are treated in our childhood, the impact of that in our adulthood. So let's get back to the content. Now, beliefs are subconscious imprints. And that is why, by the way, we cannot change our beliefs through thoughts. You cannot think your way into changing a belief that is imprinted on your subconscious mind. This is something that's like stamped on your brain. And healing happens by releasing that stamp from the subconscious mind. You cannot use your logical brain to heal something that's in your unconscious mind. It just does not work that way. We need to release these childhood wounds. We need to energetically, emotionally release them out so that they are gone for good. Because maybe today you consciously decide that, you know what, I do not want to have an abandonment wound anymore. And you know what, I'm okay with being abandoned. But you're going to be lying to yourself, because that belief is deep within you. And to heal, you need to actually consciously make that effort to work, get involved in coaching, to work with somebody, a professional who can allow this healing to happen for you. And that's one of the reasons I love what I do, because with my clients, I get to serve them that way. So much of our work is literally revolves around childhood trauma, revolves around limiting beliefs. We release it energetically from the body. We release the imprint from the mind, because that's how those interventions are designed. And so I strongly suggest that if you identify with this stuff, that if you don't change, then nothing changes. You're going to spend the next 5 years of your life doing the same things, feeling the same way, blaming the same people. Maybe the time will go by, your physical body will grow, things will physically look like they're changing, but internally you're going to feel like crap, or maybe crappier. I remember there was one client that just decided to start working with me, and he was so scared of letting his past go. And I had a second call with him before he signed up, and we talked about it, and it was like, this fear of letting the past go. And you kind of have to allow yourself to see the consequences 5 years, 10 years, 20 years from now. If you never change, what will you not have in your life if you never change? Who will you never have in your life if you never change? Think about that. Now let's get to the core childhood wounds, right? The first core childhood wound is of worthiness and shame. And worthiness and shame is this belief in your core that you think that you're broken. In your unconscious mind, there is this belief that I am broken, that there is something wrong with me. As kids, we believe that our parents are perfect. If you're a kid and you see your parents as perfect, and you feel like, my parents are not meeting my needs, and they couldn't, maybe there are a billion reasons for why they couldn't meet your needs, right? Doesn't matter why that happened. It's just that you were a kid, you felt that way for whatever godforsaken reason. You felt that way, and you developed a belief that something is wrong with me. And that is why they're not meeting my needs. Because if I was good enough, if I was worthy, then they would meet my needs. Child doesn't know logic, right? We just learned that. So they didn't choose me, so I can't choose myself. That's one of the biggest childhood wounds that affect people throughout their lives, because they live with this illusion that I am not worthy of being loved, I'm not worthy of being seen, I'm not worthy of being understood. And that's why we also develop this inner critic. Our inner critic, by the way, the way we talk to ourselves as adults is how we were treated growing up. If you in your childhood felt like this unworthiness, this shame, then your inner critic is going to have a lot of shades of unworthiness and shame, that, oh my God, I knew that you weren't worthy of this, and why are you even doing this, and you can never do this, and you're a failure, you're this, you're that, this constant battle of shame and unworthiness. Because at a deeper level, that's what you believe that you deserve. That's what you believe that you deserve, because that's the experience you had and you imprinted it to be your reality. The second thing is abandonment wound. If your kid and your parents are out here and you felt like your mental and emotional needs were not met as a child, and you realized that or learned that I cannot be myself, that I cannot be myself to gain love, acceptance, that the only way that I will be accepted and loved is that if I wear a mask. That abandonment wound teaches you to abandon yourself for other people. Now this child is constantly looking for ways to be perfect, to please everyone. And that's what happens as the adult. And when that kid grows up as an adult, the kid feels like, well, I felt abandoned as a child, and as a child I was my authentic self, so my authentic self is abandoned. Now I need to put up a facade to get people to like me, and that's why the people pleaser is born. The third is a wound of control and safety. If a child did not feel like they had any control in their childhood, if there was a lot of uncertainty when you were growing up, and there was maybe your parents got divorced, or a lot of just big massive transitions happening and you never felt safe, then you grow up to not trust the masculine energy, and in your life, in every area of your life almost, you start to overcompensate. I remember having this friend years ago. She was top of our class and she was great at everything. She was like that pamphlet kid, right? But at the end of the day, I remember once I went to her house and her parents were separated, and she lived in this I grew up in a very homely family, and it was so strange to me the way that her parents were. And her dad was never at home and her mom barely around. She was raised by a nanny. And those are the kids that learn to overcompensate in every year of their lives, and they're not happy. It's a hard pill to swallow. Ultimately, here's the end of it, which is that there are two sides to a coin. So this is a coin. This is one side, which is what happened, and then this is the other side, which is the story you created about what happened. But reality is what happened. This story is just the meaning you gave to it. And the truth is that this, in between, you have to realize that this is neutral, that reality is neutral, that you can either live with the meaning you've given it your whole life and continue to create those same dynamics and patterns and live in that pain, or you can realize that there is nothing that can be changed now, and that you needed that experience to be who you are today. I remember once Tony Robbins said something that really stuck with me. His mother was super abusive and she was a raging alcoholic and whatnot, and he had 4 stepfathers. Mother had been divorced a bunch of times, whatnot. Really not the happiest childhood, right? And he said that I used to resent my mom for a really long time, but today I look at my life and I realize that if my mother had been the mother that I wanted her to be, I would not be the man that I am today. She may not have been who I wanted, but she was exactly what I needed to have my hunger, my drive, my ache to serve people. And I feel that to be so true for my own life, because when I went through the same phase in my life where I was healing and really just an awakening in my life, and I realized that I used to blame my parents for so many things, that they weren't there at this time and that time and this and that. But I realized that had they been there, had they coddled me, and had they been those perfect parents that I always wished I had, I would not have the drive to do what I do today. My pain was my greatest gift. And so a lot of times we hold our pain as this sob story of this, I'm such a victim and life was so terrible, without ever realizing that what we think is this terrible thing may just be our greatest gift. because it is where our passion, our purposefulness, our drive, our hunger comes from. Reframing the meaning allows us to change our experience of reality in the present and the future, because we keep attracting familiar dynamics until we have healed. Until we have healed these core childhood wounds, we will keep recreating toxic patterns in our lives. For example, I kept attracting controlling, narcissistic people in my life way up until last year. And I didn't know why that was happening until I stopped everything and I looked at it and I was like, oh my God, this is a dynamic that I've been recreating, because even though it is toxic and I can see it's toxic, it's a toxic that I'm familiar to. It's a dynamic that I'm familiar to. And so we have to look at the patterns in our lives that we keep recreating, that we know that don't serve us, but somehow it just keeps happening to you. And see what is the pattern here. And then heal what needs to be healed. Let go of what needs to be let go of. And then only do we end that cycle. And the moment I let go, believe me, the people dropped out of my life like hotcakes. Everything changed in a moment, almost a moment. Within months, past 3 months, I feel like I've lived 2 years. I'm not kidding. And it was all because I chose to heal. Because healing is such a lifelong journey, right? You think that, oh, I've healed. And it's just like, you're just scraping off the surface. And then the juice comes in, the bigger wounds, right? And you then heal from those. And it's beautiful, because every time it gives you, expands your soul a little bit more. I encourage you today to just get curious with the patterns in your life, and get curious with how they keep forming and how you keep attracting the same kind of people. And I will talk about shadow work in one of my upcoming videos, where I will teach you how you can use shadow work to essentially heal those core childhood wounds. Until next time, guys, take care. Bye-bye.